The city FOP sounding the alarm on officer shortages, what they say needs to happen to bolster the ranks. It's been 2 years since a ransomware attack devastated Baltimore County schools. What's been done to prevent it from happening again? Rain expected to move in this holiday weekend. Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers breaks down how much you'll see in your neighborhood.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
There is no reason for a city council to pass any bill that benefits themselves.
Well, starting less than 30 minutes from now, Baltimore City Council members will meet to vote on a plan to give themselves and other elected leaders lifetime pensions after serving just 8 years in office. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Kai Jackson. Right now, council members have to serve 12 years to get a pension. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost breaks down the fast-tracked plan and why some first responders are blasting the council.
Fast-tracked through City Hall. City Council President Nick Mosby's plan to make city leaders eligible for a pension after 8 years instead of 12 could become reality soon. Mosby claims the plan is tied to Question K, the ballot proposal implementing term limits on city leaders.
No, I'm not trying to make it anything easier. I think the city, because of your station, that's why we're here. Your station pushed for this referendum.
The voters approved it. More than 70% of Baltimore City voters approved Question K on Election Day. And the reality is the term limits won't take effect right away. David Williams, president of the Taxpayers Protection Alliance, warns city taxpayers could be on the hook for a lifetime of benefits for part-time work.
I mean, you can look at someone who's 40 years old, becomes a city council member at 48. They're receiving a pension for the rest of their lives, which could be 30 to 40 years.
Looking at the data using city numbers, just over 8,000 city employees get a pension, and nearly 4,000 fire and police employees earn a pension. After a nearly decades-long legal battle, the city changing the requirements for first responders going from 20 years to 25 before becoming eligible for their pension, while elected leaders could become eligible at 8 years.
And that's the part that really, it's a tough pill to swallow. And that's what, it's got a lot of us upset.
It's a discrepancy that doesn't sit well with the president of the Retired Police Officers Association.
To me, that's button in line. A lot of retirees live paycheck to paycheck, or pension check to pension check.
A notion Nick Mosby disagrees with.
The voters ultimately decided that that's what they want, that they want their elected leaders to work only 8 years, 2 terms. So the pension is consistent with that regulation.
While the council will be voting for their own pension plans, the Bureau of Labor Statistics show from 1980 to 2008, pension participation fell from 38% to 20% among the U.S. workforce.
A lot of cities are recognizing that it's what some of the workers want. They want a 401k. They want other options to invest their money in, and it's more stable. And it's really a win-win for taxpayers and the city workers because they're getting a better return and it's not a burden on taxpayers.
Mosby's bill went from first committee hearing to passage on second reader in 2 weeks.
Tied on the bumper of a speeding car, as fast as it went through.
Even with concerns from inside City Hall, seen here in this memo, where the director of the Retirement Savings Plan wrote, quote, "While it may not be unconstitutional, it is highly unusual for elected officials to enhance their benefits while in term." The first responders aren't the only ones upset about Mosby's plan.
So you're getting paid for nothing?
Fox 45 News speaking with some of the same people who would be footing the bill.
It's not fair at all. It feels like they only worried about money. And that's all they talk about.
Frustration about making it easier for elected leaders to earn a pension from the people of Baltimore, while the people representing them are poised to pass it anyway. Mayor Brandon Scott has yet to indicate whether he will sign this plan, but if it does make it to his desk, he would have the option to sign it or veto it. If he decides to veto this plan, it would take 10 votes in support to override that veto. When this plan passed on second reader inside City Hall, it got 9 votes of support. In Baltimore, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Well, this morning, a group of community activists calling themselves Peace gathered outside City Hall to call on city council members to vote down the pension bill. They say if they don't, the group will work to remove supporters of the measure from office.
We will make up our life mission to identify the members who voted in the wrong way in this amendment. We will do our best to find good men and women to compete against them in the next election, so that we have men and women in that body who represent the people of Baltimore.
As Mackenzie mentioned, this pension bill was introduced by City Council President Nick Mosby. Zeke Cohen and Ryan Dorsey voted against the measure. 3 members, Mark Conway, Eric Costello, and Felicia Porter, abstained from the vote. 9 other members supported the bill. Again, that bill faces one more vote tonight before heading to the mayor's desk. Now, residents of the city of Baltimore voted decisively to implement term limits. More than 71% of those who cast their ballot supported Question K. That means more than 98,000 people voted to restrict city council members to 8 years in office.
Fox 45 News will have complete coverage of tonight's city council vote. It should happen sometime after 5 o'clock. Stay tuned to Fox 45 News at 10 for an in-depth analysis of the vote and what it means for Baltimore. And if you want to contact your city council member ahead of that vote, scan the QR code on your screen. That will take you to foxbaltimore.com, where we have contact information for each city council member listed.
In the meantime, we'd like to hear from you. Is it fair for first responders to wait 25 years for a city pension while council members only wait 8? So far, 98% of the people who voted say no. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote. Click on the Pulse tab to weigh in. Well, as violent crime continues to surge in parts of our city, the local police union says it's being ignored by the mayor's office when it comes to solutions to stop the officer shortage. Alexa Ashwell is live outside FOP headquarters tonight with the latest numbers and the mayor and police department's response for us. Alexa?
Yes, Mary, this letter from the FOP to the mayor and the Baltimore Police Department essentially saying violence is too high and the number of officers too low to effectively combat crime. Take a look at this letter. It goes on to read, there are not enough cops to cover the basics, let alone enough to form the large units which are required to focus only on the most violent offenders. And later, we have offered a plan for retention to Mayor Scott and his administration, but have been met with silence. So I asked the FOP for details on that plan. According to the president, these 3 suggestions were made during a meeting with both the mayor and the police commissioner several months ago. It includes the increase in pension percentages, specifically after 25 years of service, a greater percentage paid out in retirement benefits and bonuses for years stayed after 25 years. The president of the FOP going on to say, quote, these are all things that the city can do, but they would rather give Safe Streets $50 million and other social programs before they stabilize public safety. BPD has responded in part pointing out to the new labor agreement that was signed back in October 2021. It includes all members receiving varying raises, specifically all sworn members with more than 11 years of service receiving a 2% raise. You may recall the city also raising the starting salary to the highest of any law enforcement agency in the state, Mary.
And Alexa, where do the numbers stand tonight? How short-staffed is the Baltimore Police Department, and what else is being done to address it?
Yes, Mary. So it's no secret BPD is short-staffed. It's something that we've been covering for years. BPD just today giving me the latest statistics saying there are 442 sworn vacancies. More officers also leaving than the number coming into the department. Specifically, to date this year, 87 officers have joined the force, but 250 officers have left the department, so a difference of more than 160. I did receive a response from the mayor's office. That coming up at 5. For now, reporting live outside at FOP headquarters, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Well, this week marks 2 years since a crippling ransomware attack on public school systems in Baltimore County. The breach, which was described as crippling and catastrophic, came during the first year of the pandemic when students and teachers were in the middle of full-time virtual learning. Tonight, Fox 45 News continues to look into the extent of the cost and the impacts. Amy Simpson joins us live with what she's learning 2 years later. Amy?
Yeah, Mary, it may not be discussed or talked about as often by students, teachers, or even district leaders now 2 years later, but we do know that the impacts of that November 2020 cyber breach are still being felt. Today, Baltimore County Public Schools only answering some of my questions about the lingering impacts and cost of that breach, that cyber attack. It happened November 24th, 2020. The district today did not provide a new cost breakdown for its ongoing recovery efforts, instead saying that $9.7 million was spent in the first year of recovery, and any continuous work is now built into the district's budget. BCPS also not providing specifics on the systems and the data still impacted, but says it's focusing on user protection, device protection, and network protection, implementing safety protocols like multi-factor authentication, required network safety training, 24/7 network monitoring, and moving critical services onto the cloud. Those are upgrades that BCPS says were all done on an accelerated timeline due to that ransomware attack. But we know there are lingering impacts. Just listen to what one school board member had to say during a meeting in July, a discussion about student transportation.
Are the records available yet from the ransomware attack? Office of Transportation had indicated that they were not currently available due to the ransomware attack.
And Amy, 2 years later, what questions still need to be answered?
Yes, so Mary, 2 years later, we still do not know if a ransom was ever paid. And today, the district directed my question about the potential source of that ransomware attack to the FBI. Reporting live tonight, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
All right, if you're going to be headed out to dinner this evening, temperatures going to be falling from the 40s back into the chilly 30s, and we've got some warmer weather to come. Thank goodness. I'm going to let you know if it gets here in time for throwing the pigskin for before Thanksgiving dinner. It's up in my Weather Authority forecast. All right, nice day, actually. A little better than the 38 yesterday. Still only 47 this afternoon, which is running about 5 degrees below average. But 46 now feels okay. Winds out of the south-southeast at 5 miles an hour. Still going to need those jackets with a wind chill at 44. Temperatures are all in the low and mid 40s, which again is below average, and we do still have that wind chill. If you're going to be packing it up and heading home this evening, you're going to need the heater and also probably going to need a heavier jacket, feeling like 37 at Bel Air, 38 at Oakton, 39 Westminster, or 44 here in Baltimore, and 38 at Stevensville. But lo and behold, it is 5 to 15 degrees warmer statewide than it was 24 hours ago. So great news there. There is warmer air that's kicking in. Notice weathermaker down towards Dallas and Houston, as well as off the coast of the central eastern coast of Florida. And then there's some snow that's up in Canada. But outside of that, we're looking good for travels. Most of the country is very quiet on this very busy travel week in preparation for Thanksgiving. It's sunny and actually warmer as we head into tomorrow. Fair weather high pressure still our big weather maker. So that means temperatures overnight not as cold as a 19, just 3 degrees off the record this morning that we had at BWI. Coldest of the season thus far. But tomorrow morning, upper 20s. And then look at this, tomorrow afternoon, been a while since we could say 50s. That's looking good. And then dropping down into the 40s at about 4:45 if you're heading out to Grandma's house early for Thanksgiving. Even better yet on Wednesday, 57 for Thanksgiving on Thursday. Could see a stray shower Friday, Saturday late perhaps. And now looks like the rainier day is heading home on Sunday before it's blustery and sunshine returning into next Monday.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, police leaders say they don't have nearly enough officers to handle the crime in Baltimore. What the department is doing to change that and how the mayor is responding. Full-time benefits for part-time work coming up. The vote that decides if city council will be given a pension after 8 years in office. A vote on a controversial pension plan expected tonight. The latest on the city council's attempt to cut the time they need to work to be eligible.
An ethics proceeding over misused funds pushed back once again. What's delaying the case involving City Council President Nick Mosby and Baltimore's ethics board?
Plus, the Baltimore Police Union demands change. Why they say officers aren't getting the support they need to keep the city safe.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
There is no reason for a city council to pass any bill that benefits themselves.
Well, happening right now in a city in crisis, Baltimore City Council members are just starting a meeting where they are set to vote on a plan cutting the time they need to serve before getting a pension. Good evening. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Fox 45's Keith Daniels is live at City Hall now with the latest on tonight's vote and some community opposition to the plan. Keith?
Well, Mary and Kai, the full council is expected to vote on the matter within the hour. Now, they've already had 2 votes of approval. The third and final vote comes tonight. Now, if approved, the bill would reduce the number of years needed for city elected leaders to earn a full pension, lifetime benefits for part-time work. Now, currently, they must serve 12 years, but the bill would make it only 8. City Council President Nick Mosby, who sponsored the bill, he claims the change is necessary after Baltimore City voters overwhelmingly passed Question K on Election Day, which establishes future term limits for local elected officials. Now, some community leaders and civic groups who opposed the legislation stood outside City Hall today, calling the bill self-serving for council members who are underserving.
Just damn right selfish. I don't know how else he can put it, family. There is no reason for a city council to pass any bill that benefits themselves. Why did we have to vote for term limits? Because of actions just like this. We're saying enough is enough, Baltimore City.
Now, we are back live, back behind those doors. I just heard the gavel, the meeting coming to order. Now, Baltimore City fire and police employees are also expressing outrage over the bill. They're required to work 25 years before becoming eligible for their pension benefits. Meantime, if approved, the bill goes to the mayor for final consideration. Mayor Scott has not said whether or not he would support the bill. Now, if he vetoes this bill, they'll need 11 votes to overturn it. We're live now at City Hall. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you. Former independent mayoral candidate Bob Wallace was with the group of activists this morning. He laid out how they plan to move forward if the pension plan is passed.
We will make up our life mission to identify the members who voted for in the wrong way in this amendment. We will do our best to find good men and women to compete against them in the next election, so that we have men and women in that body who represent the people of Baltimore.
Well, as Keith goes into the meeting to listen, joining us now to talk over the pension vote, former federal prosecutor Thuru Vignarajah. Thuru, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Thuru, do you think it's appropriate for council members to have lifetime benefits or part-time jobs? And as you see this, how do the city council members reconcile this with the length of time it takes first responders to get a pension?
Kai, I try so hard to be polite, but this is just stupid. The idea that teachers, firefighters, sanitation workers have to work for decades, 20, 25, 30 years for a pension, and for our city council to decide that they deserve a pension for part-time work for the rest of their lives after 8 years in service, it's just ludicrous. And it's not as though they've presided over a particularly fruitful or constructive period. We're talking about the deadliest 8 years in Baltimore history, and at the tail end of that, to pat themselves on the back and say we need an early retirement, it's indefensible.
We don't know Mayor Scott's thoughts on this yet, but what are the implications if he signs this bill or if he doesn't sign the bill?
I got to believe that the mayor has more common sense and more political sense than to sign this bill. This is political suicide for any member of the city council or the mayor to sign a bill that would do something like this. They are misinterpreting the constitutional amendment that was passed. It's not, you guys are doing such a good job, we think you deserve an early retirement. It's that you're doing such a bad job that I want you out of there after 8 years. Every single person who signs up for this should assume that somebody's going to run against them on exactly this issue.
Yeah, it seemed like that was a narrative that the city council president, Mr. Mosby, was kind of pushing out through. And there are a lot of people in the city who are saying that's exactly the opposite of what they're feeling, which is what you're saying. some critics are saying this is business as usual in Baltimore. How do you see the city moving past this, moving beyond it?
You know, every time we try to rebuild some confidence in government, you have city politicians do something like this, which just saps confidence in our elected officials. For you to engage in this kind of transparent self-dealing, for you to rush through at lightning speed a resolution to only give you an early retirement, when there are so many things that just languish for months, for years with respect to schools, crime, water bills. They don't seem to be able to get anything done unless it comes to lining their own pockets.
All right, Dhruv Naraja, thanks for coming in and talking about this tonight. We will see what happens.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Well, the pension bill was introduced by Council President Nick Mosby. Z. Cohen and Ryan Dorsey voted against the measure. 3 members, Mark Conway, Eric Costello, and Felicia Porter, abstained from the vote. 9 other members supported the bill. Again, that bill faces one more vote tonight before heading to the mayor's desk. Now, residents of the city of Baltimore voted decisively to implement term limits. More than 71% of those who cast their ballots supported question K. That is more than 98,000 voters.
The city council is meeting right now and is set to vote on the term limits plan sometime tonight, as Keith Daniels was showing us. Stay tuned to Fox 45 News at 10 o'clock for an in-depth analysis of the vote. Now, you want to contact your city council member ahead of time? Just scan the QR code on your screen. That will take you to foxbaltimore.com. We have contact information there for each member listed.
In the meantime, we'd like to hear from you. Is it fair for first responders to wait 25 years for a city pension while council members will wait 8? So far, 98% of the people who voted say no. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote. Click on the Pulse tab.
As he pushes the new pension plan in City Hall, Council President Nick Mosby is also in a battle right now with the city's ethics board. It appears Mr. Mosby will get more time to prepare his case. Jeff Abel is live with an explanation. Jeff?
Well, you may remember it was about 5 months ago when the council president announced he would be appealing those ethics violations, and now it appears he can't find an attorney to represent him. At a circuit court hearing this afternoon, Mosby asked a judge to allow him more time to find legal representation. He told the judge that finding an attorney who does not have a conflict with the city has been challenging. Well, a judge agreed to postpone the case until January 10th. You may remember it was back in May when Mosby was cited for violating city ethics rules when he indirectly solicited funds from a legal defense fund. A few moments ago, the chairman of the city's ethics board told me that today's delay could prompt new action from the board.
The board perhaps didn't expect the appeal to be a process of this length of time. Initially, we decided not to implement enforcement of our administrative order as a courtesy to all parties involved. The ethics board may now review that stance and consider implementation of the directives and penalties associated with that order prior to the conclusion of the appeal.
Attorneys for the ethics board told the judge that he had provided no real cause for allowing such a delay, and that any delay in this case would only prove futile. We are live at City Hall tonight. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Jeff, thank you. And as violent crime continues to surge in parts of the city, the local police union says it's being ignored by the mayor's office when it comes to solutions to stop the officer shortage. Alexa Ashwell's live outside FOP headquarters with the latest numbers and the mayor and police department's response to this. Alexa?
Yes, Mary, this letter from the FOP directed to both the mayor and the Baltimore Police Department essentially says the violence is too high and the number of officers too low to effectively combat crime. I want to show you a portion of this letter. Take a look. It reads in part, there are not enough cops to cover the basics, let alone enough to form the large units which are required to focus only on the most violent offenders. And later, we have offered a plan for retention to Mayor Scott and his administration, but have been met with silence. I asked the FOP for details on that plan. According to the president, these 3 suggestions were made during a meeting with both the mayor and the commissioner several months ago. It includes an increase in pension percentages, specifically after 25 years of service, a greater percentage paid out in retirement benefits, and bonuses for years stayed after 25 years. The president of the FOP going on to say these are all things that the city can do, but they would rather give Safe Streets $50 million and other social programs before they stabilize public safety. BPD has responded, in part pointing out to the new labor agreement that was signed back in October 2021. It includes all members receiving varying raises, specifically all sworn members with more than 11 years of service receiving a 2% raise. The city, you may also recall, raising the starting salary to the highest of any law enforcement agency, Mary, in the state.
And Alexa, where do the numbers stand right now?
Now, in terms of the number of sworn officers with the Baltimore Police Department, for years, the Baltimore Police Department has remained hundreds of officers short. Just today, BPD confirming they have 442 sworn vacancies. More officers also leaving than the number of coming into the department. Specifically, to date this year, 87 officers have joined the force, but 250 officers have left the department. So a difference of about more than 160. Now, the mayor's office has responded. They say that this was discussed, but a concrete proposal was never brought forward. The mayor's office sending a statement that reads in part, the increase made to the BPD budget for fiscal year 2023 was almost entirely due to salary increases and retirement bonuses. Reporting live in Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Alexa, thank you. Well, Baltimore's squeegee crisis continues. What we're learning about a delay in the Timothy Reynolds case and new information on how much the Squeegee Collaborative's plan could cost.
Accusations over working conditions for builders of World Cup stadiums, what it means for viewers around the world.
A political fight over who was named special counsel to investigate former President Trump. I'm Scott Duman in Washington with both sides coming up.
And we got a chill on the way for the remainder of the afternoon and evening commute, falling back down through the 40s and into the 30s by the time it's all said and done. I'll let you know if we get as cold as a 19 we had this morning. By tomorrow morning, it's up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Making headlines, the 22-year-old suspect in the mass shooting at a Colorado gay nightclub faces a range of charges. Online records show Anderson Aldrich faces 5 murder charges and 5 charges of committing a hate crime causing bodily injury. The shooting happened the day before the Transgender Day of Remembrance. The city's mayor says Colorado Springs is rallying around the victims.
You know, this is a community in mourning, but I can tell already that it's a community that is activating to support these victims. There was vigils yesterday. There's going to be vigils today. I think you'll see an overwhelming amount of financial support for any victims that need it.
2 patrons reportedly grabbed a handgun from the suspect and pinned him down until police arrived. The FBI is investigating the shooting as a possible hate crime.
U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland says he appointed a special counsel to investigate former President Trump, in part to help depoliticize the process. Few moves in Washington, however, go without controversy. Sinclair's chief political correspondent, Scott Thuman, shows us both sides of this debate.
At the Justice Department, a new avenue to look into former President Trump's possible criminal handling of confidential documents, with the naming of Jack Smith as a special counsel, tasked with determining if Trump should be charged.
But if he did something wrong, he should be very worried that, this team will find out, and under a true rule of law system, he'll be held to account.
While top Democrats praised Smith's selection, the pushback predictable.
This horrendous abuse of power is the latest in a long series of witch hunts.
Critics on the right instantly attacking the man now overseeing the probes into Trump's possession of those documents and aspects of the investigation into his efforts to overturn his 2020 loss to President Biden.
Former President Trump politicizes everything that goes on with these investigations. The special prosecutor that was named here has experience with those. He's prosecuted other current or former elected officials. They always say, or frequently say, this is politically motivated. So that's not anything new out of the playbook.
While Smith has been applauded for a career of fighting corruption, conservatives are questioning his credibility. One right-wing site alleging Smith was involved with the infamous IRS official Lois Lerner, who used the IRS to target Tea Party and other conservative groups via auditing and application processing delays in 2010.
Clearly possessing classified documents in an unprotected area is not proper. Going to the last resort of executing a search warrant against a former president of the United States, I think sent the wrong message. It was a divisive message in this country.
With Trump now running for president a 3rd time, the scrutiny of a special counsel, just as it did under Robert Mueller's Trump-Russia probe, likely to escalate. In Washington, I'm Scott Thuman.
Well, the sun was out today.
Yeah.
Didn't have much, though.
Was there.
But
Isabel, who's on our floor, Jonathan, used the word, and I like this word, there's a bite outside.
Yeah, it was a little
That's
bite.
good,
What do you think, Mary?
Yes, 100%. It was pretty, though.
Where did it bite you?
do you really want to
No, I
know,
don't.
Guy?
Don't tell
You
me.
know my answer, and
All
it's
right.
not made for TV.
It's getting us all there.
Yes.
All right. Well,
That's what it's like, Jonathan. What do you want us to say?
Hey, we got chilly temperatures. We were at 38 yesterday. Today, 46, actually off of a high of 47, which is still below average for this time of year. Should be in the low and mid 50s. It's been a slow climb back out of that big chasm of cold that we've been in. Winds out of the south at 5 miles an hour, humidity at 35%. And the wind chills, yes, there's still a wind chill at 44 degrees. A mile on Tascam looks real nice, but as we were saying, it's pretty, but it's cold. Temperatures in the upper 30s, low to mid 40s right now. This feels more like, December than it does November. Wind chill at 44 here in Baltimore, 40 at Westminster, 39 at Gaithersburg, and 32 at Chestertown. But hey, at least it's sunny, right? Now the sun is set, but temperatures still are about 5 to 15 degrees warmer than they were just 24 hours ago. And HT radar shows, thankfully for these folks in the Buffalo area, seeing 6 to 7 feet of snow. That's over. There is still some snow that's up into portions of Canada and the northern UP of Michigan. And then way down south, there's some rain trying to bubble up around Houston and Dallas, as well as off the coast of Florida. But that's about it. The rest of the country for getaways for the rest of today into tomorrow as well as into Wednesday. That's a big travel day. Looks like it's pretty quiet, so that's some good news. Although it's chilly right now, it is going to warm up even here for tomorrow as fair weather high pressure moves east and we start getting those winds out of the south and southwest. So the future scan says through about 10 p.m. tonight, falling down into the 30s overnight. By about, say, 7 to 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, upper 20s, and it looks like we'll finally be rebounding to the low to mid 30s. And then by tomorrow afternoon, up near 50. We're probably about 50 to 55, which is close to where we should be for this time of year with ample sunshine. And it looks like it gets even better for Wednesday, a high 57. 57 on Turkey Day, good for a walk before or after you stuff yourself with turkey. And then on Friday, maybe a stray shower here or there. It looks like a lesser and lesser chance of rain as a little weather maker comes through, but most of the moisture now looks like it's south of us. And then on Saturday, that moisture could start moving back northbound. So I think late in the day, there could be a shower or two if you're doing some shopping. Most of the day should be dry with a high 58 there. How about 62 on Sunday? That'll feel good. Unfortunately, it's going to be raining. So the trip home from the holiday could be wet potentially now, and then blustery and drier for Monday of next week with a high 53.
Well, it was cold downtown yesterday, and it may have been ugly to watch, but the Ravens pulled out a win yesterday against the Carolina Panthers. Lamar Jackson threw for 209 yards and added a rushing touchdown. Veteran wide receiver Demarcus Robinson caught 9 passes for 128 yards. But the bigger news today is the health of all-pro tackle Ronnie Stanley and rookie safety Kyle Hamilton. Both went down with injuries during last night's game.
We don't have the final word on those things yet, but I would say it's definitely trending in the right direction based on what we know so far. Ronnie still has an MRI to get, so we'll find out the final on that. But it was trending really well last night and this morning, and Kyle the same thing. Kyle, the x-rays look good, so it's trending in the right way, and his knee's stable and all those kind of things.
The Ravens head to Jacksonville this weekend to take on the Jaguars. We will have full coverage leading up to that game on air and online at foxbaltimore.com. A year ago, the cost to fix it was up to nearly $10 million, the lasting impact of the ransomware attack on Baltimore County schools. And the latest on the city's plan to pay squeegee kids to stay off streets. A first look at how much the cost could add up. Well, the World Cup is underway. The U.S. took on Wales in its opening match today. The Americans scored early and led most of the game, but Wales evened things up on a penalty kick late in the game. It ended in a draw. The U.S. takes on England in its next match on Black Friday. Well, as the World Cup begins, some are choosing to boycott the event due to accusations workers who built these stadiums were forced to do so in brutal conditions. Megan Gillen talks with the sports agent about the controversy.
The World Cup is officially underway in Qatar, and while many are glued to the TV watching the games, there's some controversy off the pitch concerning human rights, especially for the migrant workers who built these stadiums. Activists claim they suffered inhumane conditions, claims that the government there denies. Sports agent Doug Aldridge weighing in on the impact this has on the world stage.
You're starting to see sports as an increasing mechanism for rebranding on a national stage, from the Olympics to the World Cup. It's utilized as an opportunity to show what countries feel is their softer side, their brighter side, or their better side. And the World Cup is a chance to put your best foot forward, no pun intended, on the largest sporting stage, right? 4 years ago, an estimated 3.5 billion people watched some portion of the World Cup. They think 5 billion, or 2/3 of the entire Earth's population, will watch some part of this World Cup. And so to that end, Megan, the eyes of the world are on Qatar or Qatar, depending on who you speak to.
Which, by the way, if you were wondering, neither way is wrong. Qatar is said more often by locals there, but you'll hear it pronounced Qatar more so here in the United States. I'm Megan Gillen, Fox 45 News.
Well, how much did the ransomware attack on Baltimore County schools cost? Pressing leaders on unanswered questions and lingering problems 2 years after it happened. A temporary leader for the Baltimore County Police Department who's taking charge with the current chief on her way out. The case surrounding a deadly shooting involving a squeegee kid will stay in adult court, looking into what comes next.
The case involving the teen squeegee suspect accused of killing Timothy Reynolds continues to make headlines.
That's right. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost was in court today. She joins us live in studio right now to bring us up to speed on some of the things that happened. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Mary and Kyle, today was the original trial date during a virtual hearing this morning with Judge Melissa Finn. That's when the city state's attorney Marilyn Mosby's office asked for a delay. The main reason was to try and get a new prosecutor assigned to the case. If you remember, the original prosecutor that had been handling the case was pulled off days before the original hearing last Thursday. Mosby accused the prosecutor, Rita Westhoff-Ito, of leaking information about the case to the victim's family and the family's attorney. So now Mosby's office is looking for a permanent prosecutor to handle the case. Moving forward, we know it's going to be held in the adult court system. And during the hearing, it was made clear there was not a plea agreement on the table right now. Judge Finn ordered everyone back to the courtroom December 20th for an update. Marion Kai?
And Mackenzie, pivoting to the Squeegee Collaborative and the recommendations, you're learning new information about the Earn and Learn portion. What have you learned?
Yeah, that's right. According to the latest information we just received from the mayor's office, the squeegee kids who participate in the training portion of this plan will be paid $15 an hour. The city will place the squeegee kids with public or private employers to get this workforce development training. Some of these details were first reported Friday by the Baltimore Business Journal, but the mayor's office tells me the kids won't automatically be paid $15 an hour for 35 hours of work a week. The information was discussed during a webinar with Deputy Mayor Faith Leach that she gave Friday to businesses in Baltimore. I'm still trying to get a copy of that webinar, and we're still trying to figure out the specific number of squeegee kids the mayor's office could support with its Earn and Learn program. We're still waiting for some of those details. Marion Kai?
Mackenzie, thank you. Well, police are investigating a triple shooting in West Baltimore. Officers responded to a scene on Pennsylvania Avenue near Mosier Street overnight, where they found two men who had been shot multiple times. Later, a third man who had also been shot brought himself to the hospital. None of their injuries were life-threatening. Anybody with information should contact Baltimore Police or Metro Crime Stoppers.
A pastor is recovering after being attacked with a hammer during a Sunday morning service. According to the Baltimore police, around 10 o'clock yesterday morning, a 55-year-old man attacked the pastor of the Church of the Redeemer on Old York Road. The 78-year-old victim was cut in the ear, but doesn't have any major injuries. Now, police believe the attacker was suffering from a mental health crisis. He was taken to a hospital for evaluation.
An interim police chief has been named for the Baltimore County Police Department. County Executive Johnny Olszewski says Colonel Dennis Delp will become the interim chief in early December. Delp will take over for Police Chief Melissa Hyatt. County Executive decided not to renew Hyatt's contract, but didn't say why exactly. In May, the Baltimore County Fraternal Order of Police held a no-confidence vote in Chief Hyatt, saying they had lost faith in her leadership.
A 14-year-old boy is under arrest for possession of a loaded firearm after a short chase in Severn. Police say early this morning, Anne Arundel County officers got reports of a suspicious person checking cars and door handles in Fort Meade. They say when they found the suspect, he dropped a loaded gun. Police say the teen has been charged, but will not release any additional information because he's a juvenile.
In Baltimore County this week marks 2 years since a crippling ransomware attack on the public school system. The breach, which was described as catastrophic, came during the first year of the pandemic, if you remember, when students and teachers were in the middle of full-time virtual learning. Now, 2 years later, there are still some basic questions unanswered about the extent of the attack and the ongoing recovery. Fox 45's Amy Simpson joins us live now with the very latest. Amy?
Yeah, Mary, it may not be talked about as often, but we know that impacts are still being felt by some 2 years later. It was Thanksgiving week 2020 when Baltimore County Public Schools came to a standstill, finding itself the victim of a massive cyber breach.
We have been in contact with our local, state, and federal law enforcement partners.
The ransomware attack canceled classes for several days, and weeks of confidence checks or device swaps ensued, all as the district tried to continue educating students during the pandemic.
Teachers want to know the why. Why do I have to get my device swapped and reimaged? It's perfectly fine. I wasn't infected.
Last November, when the district was 1 year removed from that cyber breach. BCPS shared a line-by-line breakdown of costs related to recovery. As of November 2021, the district had dished out nearly $9.7 million, noting some of it would be paid by cyber insurance. But questions remain as lingering impacts of the attack continue to pop up. In February of this year, FOX45 first reported on problems related to retiree pensions, data systems that were upended and continue to suffer following that cyber breach 2 years ago.
It never occurred to me that my insurance and the money that I get every month in my pension check would be affected by that at all.
At a Baltimore County School Board meeting over the summer on July 12th, ransomware impacts were raised related to a discussion about student transportation.
Are the records available yet from the ransomware attack? Office of Transportation had indicated that they were not currently available due to the ransomware attack.
And at a meeting scheduled for tomorrow night, Baltimore County's Board of Ed is expected to hear a comprehensive financial report from the 2022 fiscal year. That 118-page report only mentioning ransomware one time, but says, quote, the board has been working continuously on restoring and replacing damaged systems and recovery of data lost in the attack. Some of the cost of recovery has been covered by insurance. However, additional unplanned costs have been incurred. Today, Baltimore County Public Schools responding to some of Fox 45's questions about the cost and impacts of the cyber attack. The district did not provide a new cost breakdown, instead saying after the $9.7 million spent in the first year of recovery. Continuous work is now built into the budget. Meanwhile, BCPS not providing specifics on the systems and data still impacted, but says it's focusing on user protection, device protection, and network protection, implementing things like multi-factor authentication, required network safety training, 24/7 network monitoring, and moving critical services to the cloud. Upgrades, BCPS says, was all done on an accelerated timeline. And 2 years later, we still do not know if BCPS paid a ransom after this attack. Today, the district directing my question about a possible source of that ransomware attack to the FBI. Reporting live tonight, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Anne Arundel County Public Schools has had its share of bus difficulties this year. The school system is down nearly 70 bus drivers, and it's having a major impact on its students. Students like 14-year-old Zion Wiggins and his friends have been without a school bus for most of the year. To get to school each day is a 75-minute journey that includes taking public transportation and a dangerous walk along a busy road that doesn't have a sidewalk. Zion's mom says her child's safety is in jeopardy.
But what if somebody get hit? There's no crossing guards there. There's nobody there to make sure they're okay.
Tonight at 10, the actions taken by the Anne Arundel County School Board just days after Project Baltimore contacted them about Zion. That could mean relief for this family.
Making headlines, Governor-elect Wes Moore is in Baltimore today for the Baltimore Economic Summit. The event hopes to bring together leaders in government, private businesses, and various communities around the city to develop plans for economic improvement in Baltimore. Moore says Baltimore needs to market all of its success stories.
I refuse to let the things that are not going well dim my optimism from the things that are going right already, right? And we need to tell that story too. We need to make sure that people understand, not just outside of Baltimore, I'm talking within Baltimore. People need to know the good things and the natural assets that we have going on.
Moore highlighted the investments in the Lexington Market renovation, the Port of Baltimore, the Howard Street Tunnel, and Baltimore's 2 historically black colleges.
8 years has gone by so quickly, and I think our founding fathers in Harper County were smart in putting an 8-year limit, because it is a 24/7 kind of pressure cooker for 8 years. And the pandemic added a couple of years that have been a blur to me, in addition to everything else we've been working on.
Well, Harford County Executive Barry Glassman joined Fox 45 News this morning to look back on his 8 years in office. Glassman ran an unsuccessful campaign against Democratic Comptroller-elect Brooke Learman. Glassman says he is proud of his 2 terms as county executive. He says he's helped create a budget surplus as well as fully funding the county's pension education systems. Still, he says his biggest accomplishments don't come from a balance sheet.
When I came in 8 years ago, I said I wanted to be judged not so much on the number of ribbons I cut and the budgets I balanced, but how many lives that we've turned around in 8 years. And I think our work in mental health, turning back the opioid epidemic in the county and getting folks reemployed and lifting up all our families, our young people with disabilities, to give them more opportunities. I kind of take solace in that more so probably in all the budget balancing I've done.
Glassman says he plans to slow down, review his options before deciding what's next.
New tonight, Towson University is looking for a new football coach. The university announced that Rob Ambrose will not return next season. The university said it will conduct a national search for his replacement. Special teams coordinator Lyndon Johnson will serve as interim coach. Towson went 6-5 this year under Coach Ambrose.
Could the backbone of America's supply chains come to a screeching halt? I'm Atrell Nashar with the latest snag in negotiations between rail companies and their workers.
Hospitals reaching capacity. Families unsure of how to care for kids. The impact of a national RSV surge.
And it's going to be another cold one tonight. Maybe not the teens that we saw last night, but we are going to fall down into the 20s to around 30 by the time you wake up tomorrow morning. So maybe a little bit of scraping when you wake up. I'm going to let you know how things shape up for the big Tuesday and Wednesday getaways before Thanksgiving. It's up in my Weather Authority forecast.
We have breaking news to report minutes ago. Baltimore City Council has given the go-ahead for the plan to shorten the length of time to be eligible for a city pension from 12 years to 8 years for council members. Now, this bill is being fast-tracked through the council and has been controversial. The FOP pointed out that first responders have to wait 25 years to qualify for a city pension. Again, the city pension bill has passed by a vote of 8-5. And remember, this still needs a signature of the mayor. We don't have any word on how the mayor will decide on this issue right now. Fox 45 will bring you a live report from City Hall in about 15 minutes. In tonight's top stories, one person has died and at least 16 others were hurt after an SUV crashes into a Massachusetts Apple store. Authorities say a car plowed through a store window this morning and hit several people, pinning others against the wall. Authorities have not said how any of the other victims are doing. The cause is under investigation. Negotiations between rail companies and labor unions hits a snag as another union rejects a deal. If the sides don't come to a contract agreement by early next month, it could upend the nation's supply chains. National correspondent Atra El-Nashar has more.
For an economy struggling with inflation, potentially facing a recession, the stakes for rail companies and labor unions reaching a deal and avoiding a strike couldn't be higher.
I'm still hopeful that we'll be able to get some type of agreement done before that happens.
Labor Secretary Marty Walsh leading the administration's work to bring the two sides together. They reached a tentative agreement in mid-September, sending it to the 12 unions for ratification. The unions will only move forward if all 12 unions, representing 115,000 workers, are on board. Monday morning, a fourth union, Smart TD train and engine service members, rejected the deal.
These guys are on call 24/7, 365. They have no assigned days off in many cases right now. That's what we were trying to resolve with the contract.
Dennis Pierce, president of the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen, which just voted to ratify the agreement, says he understands why many say it falls short. For instance, there's no paid sick time. Now, the unions rejecting the deal have a cooling off period through at least December 4th before a potential strike. Head of the Association of American Railroads said this last week.
I would say that I'm confident we can get a path forward for all 12 of our unions to have ratified agreements before any sort of work stoppage occurs.
The association estimates a strike could cost the U.S. economy $2 billion per day. But under the Railway Labor Act, Congress has the authority to step in and impose a contract. But all sides, Secretary Walsh, the unions, rail companies, say they want to avoid that at all costs. Lawmakers may feel the pressure to act, and soon. The National Retail Federation calling on them to step in, saying a rail strike during peak holiday season would devastate business and make inflation worse. Each side doubts it will come to that, destabilizing the economy at a time when some economists already predict a recession will start early next year. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar reporting.
All right, here we go. Toyota East to Harbor Skycam. It is cold, 46 degrees, but feels a lot better than the 38 we had for a record high minimum yesterday afternoon for the Ravens game. Winds out of the south at 5 miles an hour. It just shows you how far we've fallen temperature-wise. The 47 we had this afternoon, still about 5 degrees below average. Wind chill at 44. And finally, we are seeing a warming trend. I think by tomorrow, we should be at about where we should be for this time of year, and we could even be above average as we head into Turkey Day and the end of the week. So temperature of 46 here in Baltimore now, 39 at Cockeysville, 39 at Westminster, and 41, Denton 39, Elkton Way up in Cecil County. Still a little bit of a wind chill, so this is what you have to dress for. Feels more like 37 at Westminster and at Bel Air. Feels like 31 at Chestertown and Stevensville is at a wind chill of 39. The good news, temperatures are about 12 degrees warmer, not a big surprise, I suppose, than we were 24 hours ago here in Baltimore. 18 degrees up at Cumberland and 17 degrees warmer at Columbus, Ohio. So that warmer air with winds out of the west-southwest, that's what's streaming in. Nearest weather makers pretty far away. There are some showers that are around Houston, Texas, and Dallas. So if you have any getaways down that way, there could be some delays. And then down toward Tampa and Miami, there's some showers, snow north of the Canadian border, but no more of that Buffalo snow, thankfully, after about 6 to 7 feet of lake effect snow there in the past several days. We are chilly for now, but fair weather high pressure double-barreled all the way from the southern U.S. back off the coast of the East Coast, giving us some sunny and warmer weather by the time we hit midweek. And I'm telling you, Thanksgiving looking really nice. Could be touching almost near 60 degrees by then. It's hard to believe after what we've seen the past several days. Temperatures, again, overnight tonight, going to be wintry, back down into the mid to upper 20s to near 30. But by midday tomorrow, we're back in the 40s to near 50 and well into the 50s tomorrow afternoon. Looks like another chilly overnight for tomorrow night before we pop you back into the 50s once again for Wednesday and into Thanksgiving. 28 clear skies for tonight, tomorrow 53 and mostly sunny. Great for getting outside, maybe hanging up some Christmas lights the next several days. I know I have to do that myself. Wednesday will be at 57 on Turkey Day for Thanksgiving. Good for throwing the pigskin around or maybe doing a little walk before or after your big Thanksgiving meal. Stray shower on Friday with a high 57, 58 on Saturday, maybe a shower late, and a better chance of rain now it appears on Sunday for heading home from Thanksgiving. Nice and mild, high 62, 53 early next week, and we're going to take an in-depth look at your weekend forecast, including Thanksgiving, in just a couple of minutes.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. Well, something to help get you into that holiday spirit. Our morning team held a tree decorating competition to benefit the Kennedy Krieger Annual Festival of Trees. It is a wonderful event.
We've got Betty Boo Christmas tree. This is your Christmas baddie with her boots.
That's right.
She's got a skirt going on and a sweater as well and arms. So this is what we submit this to the judges.
Gwenda, the trash wheel, and this is her. This is what Gwenda looks like over here, and this is our recreation. She's got her tiara and, you know, her trash wheel, and she's collecting all the trash.
We love this man right here. We dedicated to him. That's pretty awesome.
And it actually looks like him, guys. It's amazing. It does. It is really good. The bushy eyebrows put it over the top.
If you look closely, there's glasses in there.
Yeah, there's a little bit of glasses.
Yeah.
You
know, Jimmy would be really honored too. It's funny. He would love this.
Yeah, it's great. Really, I love the creativity out here. By the way, Tom and Justin won this morning's competition with that traffic jam Jimmy tree. The Festival of Trees takes place this weekend at the Maryland State Fairgrounds in Timonium. Get out there, benefits Kennedy Krieger. It is a wonderful event. I've gone out there for years. Well, coming up at 6 o'clock, the City Council's decision on a plan to speed up their own pension plans access after you voted for term limits. The last-minute effort to slow the bill down.
New concerns today about viral illnesses, especially in young children. I'm Liz Bonas, but the American Academy of Pediatrics wants every parent to know it is just ahead.
So many kids are now sick with viral illnesses that pediatric infectious disease specialists want a state of emergency declared. Medical reporter Liz Bonus has the story.
Hey there, everybody. The American Academy of Pediatrics and the Children's Hospital Association have asked the federal government for this formal emergency declaration. It's all because even with COVID-19 and flu vaccines now available for children as young as 6 months old, healthcare providers are still seeing an alarming surge of childhood respiratory illnesses, especially RSV, or respiratory syncytial virus.
It's hard to qualify a number because a lot of people think they just have a cough or cold and never get tested. So the numbers that we are seeing are likely an underrepresentation of what's going on in the community.
Ohio's Cincinnati Children's Hospital saying they still do have capacity to care for kids with respiratory illnesses, but nationwide, as many as 3/4 of pediatric beds are now full. ICU pediatric beds are getting scarce. Texas now reports as few as 30 open beds. Minnesota and New Hampshire report 0. A state of emergency could assist with additional emergency funding and medical resources, but so far the White House has not responded to this request. So look at this breathing video from the American Academy of Pediatrics. If a child is in distress, reach out right away to your child's own doctor.
We want to watch how they eat and drink. Are they making wet diapers? We want to watch how awake they are. Are they easy to wake up? And we want to watch how they breathe.
The concern, of course, is that as we all come together for the holiday week, a whole new host of infections will be passed around. I'm medical reporter Liz Bonus. Now back to you.
Quick look at that in-depth weekend forecast, starting with Thanksgiving on our GFS Future Scan computer model, or our long-range computer model, we like to call it. Just a couple of clouds at worst. I think it's kind of more of a sunny day, in fact. Here on Friday, you see that system kind of glance to our north, one to our south. We're kind of in the middle, so I think most of the day is dry. There could be a stray shower here or there, and then later Saturday, some rain tries to approach, and I think it really impacts the trip home on Sunday, especially during the first half of the day. But boy, Thanksgiving, gorgeous. High temperatures in the 50s, a chilly start and a chilly finish as you're sitting down for dinner.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 6 o'clock, the City Council takes up their own pension plan that would make retiring easier. A last-minute effort to delay the bill. Plus, Sheetz Gas and Oil promises to put gas under $3 a gallon at all stations. But Maryland was left out, the obscure state law that prevents your savings.
The vote is 8 yeses, 5 noes, and 2 abstentions.
Breaking now, the City Council votes to give themselves access to lifetime pensions faster after you said yes to term limits. After the final vote, why it may still be blocked. Another delay in the ethics case brought against City Council President Nick Mosby. Why a resolution over legal defense fund violation was pushed back. And with Thanksgiving week upon us, an update on holiday gift shipping. Why delivery services say this year you can expect everything to arrive on time, even last-minute gifts.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
Well, tonight we have team coverage in a city in crisis. 2 major updates involving the City Council and President Nick Mosby. Jeff Abel is looking into yet another delay in the ethics case against Mosby. But first, Keith Daniels with the breaking news on the passage of a controversial pension bill brought forward by the sitting president. Keith?
Well, Mary, we're live here outside of the council chamber. The meeting just wrapping up. Again, the vote, 8 yes, 5 no, and 2 people abstaining from this vote to approve the pension plan for council members. Councilwoman Odette Ramos, one of those people voting against this bill, she tried initially to add an amendment to the bill, wanting the council members to consider an amendment to take a closer look at the matter before voting on it. In the end, though, she voted no to this. She joins us now to talk to us more about that amendment she intended. Councilwoman, what was that about, the amendment?
Sure. So the amendment was to keep us as current council members at the 12-year vestment period, and then the amendment would have had the new council members that are elected in 2024 to get the 8-year pension.
In other words, you didn't want it to affect you guys immediately.
Well, correct. I mean, I did look at the hearing. I went back and looked at the hearing, and it was clear that, it makes sense to have the vestment period to be 8 years for those new people because they're only going to be there for 8 years, once Question K gets put in place. And so that it's been clear, but they needed a little bit more time. And so my amendment was just to create that new class. We'll see.
I understand. One of your colleagues also thought that it didn't send the correct optics to the people. It seemed quite self-serving, in his words. That's Councilman Cohen, who also voted against this amendment, this bill, rather. He said it seems self-serving. You're self-serving. What's your reaction to that? Is this self-serving?
Well, it is the duty of council members to vote on pensions of ourselves and some other employees. So it's just that the timing was unfortunate. And I have to say, we wouldn't be in this mess if somebody hadn't put in Question K. And I know you all actually were for it, and you spoke very hard in favor of Question K to your audiences. Question K is a bad deal, because that means there's no staggering and everybody goes at the same time. That's not good for Baltimore. So you all put us in this position, and I think that it's unfortunate that we have to figure out and scramble with how we're going to end up with, the dealing with the term limits. That doesn't affect us right away because the term limit started.
But in terms of this pension bill, voting to give yourselves 8 years, down from 12. When firefighters and police officers and that kind of thing have to work 25 years before they become pension eligible. What about that?
Well, again, I mean, it was 12 years for us, and that wasn't something that I decided. I wasn't here at the time. So obviously this bill will also cause for all of those things to be reconsidered, I would imagine. Mm-hmm. But again, we wouldn't be here if Question K hadn't been put in place.
But, it was overwhelmingly passed. It was overwhelmingly passed by the citizens of Baltimore, 70%.
Yeah, but he put in a lot of money to be able to get it passed. And so I think it was very disingenuous because it basically, removed and underestimated the power of the people to actually make decisions.
You bring up the people
are my bosses, and so they should make the decision whenever they're ready to see me go, or if they want me to stay. Right. So
well, you brought up the people. The voice of the people spoke in Question K, and they voted for term limits.
You all promoted it rather than being objective and trying to see both sides. So I think that's an issue.
All right, Councilwoman, thank you for your time.
Sure.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So again, the Councilwoman standing by her position, still voting no, though, for the pension plan. We're live now at City Hall. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you. As it stands, the 8 yes votes is not veto proof if Mayor Scott chooses to issue one. And also now another twist in the probe into Nick Mosby and the ethics violations he's fighting regarding a legal defense fund. We will have to wait even longer for a resolution to that. Fox 45's Jeff Abel continues our team coverage with the latest developments tonight.
At a circuit court hearing this afternoon, Mosby asked a judge to allow him more time to find legal representation. He told the judge that finding an attorney who doesn't have a conflict with the city has been challenging. A judge agreed to postpone the case until January 10th. You may remember it was back in May when Mosby was cited for violating city ethics rules when he indirectly solicited funds from a legal defense fund. Well, a few moments ago, the chairman of the city's ethics board told us that the delay today could prompt new action from the board.
The board perhaps didn't expect the appeal to be a process of this length of time. Initially, we decided not to implement enforcement of our administrative order as a courtesy to all parties involved. The ethics board may now review that stance and consider implementation of the directives and penalties associated with that order prior to the conclusion of the appeal.
Attorneys representing the ethics board told the judge that any delay would only be futile and that the council president had shown no good cause for a delay. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Well, gun violence continues to plague parts of the city. Overnight, a triple shooting in West Baltimore. 2 men were found shot multiple times, excuse me, when police arrived at the scene on Pennsylvania Avenue in Upton. A third person took himself to the hospital. Fox 45 News is told all 3 are expected to survive. Well, that means the city now has more than 640 shooting survivors in 2022. Lives changed really forever. Almost 300 people have been killed this year. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost has a look at the relentless demand for accountability from the leaders elected to serve and improve Baltimore City.
It's been almost a year of relentless attempts to try and get answers, demanding accountability when we talk about crime, failing schools, and attempts to root out corruption at some of the highest levels from leaders in Baltimore City. And that also is true, especially when we're talking about Mayor Brandon Scott. Specifically when it comes to the violence that has continued to grip Baltimore. For the last 8 years, at least 300 people each for the last 8 years have been killed in Baltimore City. But remember, this was Brandon Scott on the campaign trail just a few years ago.
I will aim to reduce homicides by 15% each year in my term, getting us below 300 homicides in my first year.
Once again, a campaign promise broken, but the violent crime crisis continues. There have been more than 2,000 people killed over the last 8 years. Those numbers do not include the people who have been shot but survived. Let's take a look at some of the faces and names behind these numbers. Chesley Patterson and Cheryl McCormick, both killed in separate robberies on January 24th. Marco Nunez, he was the bouncer who was killed outside the bar in Fells Point on April 25th. Victor Malabayabas, he was assaulted outside of his home in August and then later died the next day. And then there's William Vincent. He was gunned down in his own Cherry Hill neighborhood, November 19th. These are just 5 examples, some of the faces of the gun violence that continues to plague Baltimore City. We've been demanding answers from Mayor Brandon Scott for almost a year. Sometimes that means following him into elevators to get some answers, and other times that means asking him these questions whenever and wherever he's out in public at news conferences or other city events. Here are some examples.
Does that mean that your 5-year plan will be tweaked at all?
Thank you, Mackenzie.
All right, thanks.
Do you think that your administration can have a summer of peace given what we've seen in the track record so far?
I think that's a ridiculous question. Again, no, he doesn't. I spoke with Ivan Bates directly. What you say, Mackenzie, again.
You can see the mayor not always willing to answer the questions or at least answer them directly. The Scott administration also staying pretty quiet about the city's flagship gun violence prevention program. We know that as Safe Streets. We know the program is undergoing some significant changes, but the city not allowing us inside to really see what's happening. And that leads us here, right to City Schools headquarters at North Avenue. We know there's a link between crime and education, and most recently in Baltimore City, the education system has come under fire, especially when you're talking about this lawsuit.
This was filed by taxpayers suing the city and city schools, alleging a misuse of tax dollars. The underlying facts throughout this lawsuit really hinge on what Fox 45's Project Baltimore has been uncovering for years. Ghost students, ghost classes, and then what the Office of Inspector General for Education found was more than 12,000 failing grades changed to passing. We sat down with National Civil Rights Attorney Ben Crump. He's involved in the lawsuit, but we also talked about why so many leaders in Baltimore City are seemingly afraid or against of coming out talking about what's in the lawsuit itself. How come we're not seeing a lot of the other city leaders, the mayor, the CEO, come out and talk about some of the problems that Project Baltimore has uncovered and really will be highlighted, expected as this investigation and the lawsuit plays out?
Well, what I endeavor to do is to hopefully bring all the community stakeholders to the table to say we can do better. We must admit that there's a problem, and then we could try to resolve the problem.
Why do you think leaders won't admit that there is a problem?
You know, I can't get into the minds of others, but I hope that we can convince them that there's a problem that needs to be addressed here.
And really that brings us to the rest of City Hall. The City Council routinely ignores our questions, refusing to answer some of the biggest issues facing Baltimore City. We've sent questions asking a number of topics. Whether our questions are about dirt bikes, squeegee kids, violent crime, gun policy, failing schools, or the embattled Mosbys, both Nick and Marilyn, we've sent hundreds of questions to these leaders this year alone. Here's a fraction of the emails that we sent to these leaders, and more often than not, they're staying quiet, refusing to answer to the same people who put them in these positions to begin with. As the violence continues, corruption concerns arise, and students still struggle in the classroom. Even though these leaders won't face the questions, we won't stop demanding answers. At the Accountability Desk, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Well, the murder trial involving the shooting of Timothy Reynolds by a 15-year-old squeegee kid has been delayed. The main reason to get a new prosecutor assigned after City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby benched the original attorney over accusations of leaking information to the Reynolds family. The next hearing is set for December 20th, and that's when we could find out the new trial date. Well, still ahead, Sheetz promises to bring gas prices below $3 a gallon at all of its gas stations, except in Maryland, the law that prevents your savings coming up.
And temperatures continuing to warm into tomorrow, highs back into the 50s. I'll let you know how much warmer it gets all the way into Thanksgiving. That's coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
And more students now choosing a 2-year college education over 4 years. We look at what's driving that decision. Enrollment at four-year universities and colleges is on the decline, but that trend may be changing at community colleges. The National Desk's Angela Brown with what may be driving this change.
A stunning headline from the LA Times just days ago. Community college enrollment at California community colleges drops to a 30-year low. Enrollment in free fall now showing signs of slowing nationally. This October report from the National Student Clearinghouse found that fall enrollment at community colleges flat, down just 0.4%, encouraging signs following the last 2 years. Community colleges losing more than 827,000 students since spring of 2020. The executive director from the National Student Clearinghouse Research Center said, although the decline has slowed and there are some bright spots, a path back to pre-pandemic enrollment levels is growing further out of reach. Professors urging students to give community colleges a second look.
The beauty is with community colleges that all options are open to you. So if you do want to transfer to the four-year school, you have that option. If you want to go into the workforce, you have that option.
This fall, enrollment at four-year universities declining by 1.6%, higher than community colleges. The price tag? Keeping students out of the classroom. The president saying this.
The total cost to attend a public four-year university has tripled, nearly tripled in 40 years.
A new study from the Gates Foundation revealing what many parents and students already know. 38% of students didn't enroll in college because of fears about the cost of college and amassing debt. In Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
And here's our look at today's top trending stories. Number one, Sheetz is reducing gas prices to $2.99 a gallon for Thanksgiving travel, but not in Maryland and not in West Virginia. Fox 45 asked why Sheetz says no to Maryland, and it's confirmed it's because of an obscure law prohibiting the sale of gasoline below wholesale prices in Maryland. Sheetz tells us it is lowering prices as far as it can. Number two, the shipping struggles of holidays past appear to be over. At least that's what the delivery companies are hoping. UPS, FedEx, and the Postal Service expect to have excess capacity to deliver this year after many gifts did not make it in time for Christmas in 2020 and in 2021. A big difference this year, more in-store shopping as COVID fears subside. Number three, it was a really big weekend for the University of Maryland's basketball teams. The men advanced to 5-0 with a dominating win over Miami and vaulted into the AP rankings at number 23 in the nation. Some expected this season to be a rebuild, but they are off to a hot start. The women also upset Baylor and moved up to number 14 in the country.
All right, our Fox Triple Cast this evening. Gorgeous look on the Toyota Eastern Harbor Skycam and the Mile 1 Taos Cam HD radar. Nice and quiet. And, well, you take a look here across the land and not much going on as our latest weather maker is fair weather high pressure. Right now, we've got 43 degrees under those clear skies. Winds, they're out of the south at about 5 miles an hour. So not a bad feel to things by any means as we continue again to kind of get ourselves out of that hole of the very cold weather that we've been dealing with, and we'll continue to warm up over the next several days. Take a look at those temperatures right now. They are feeling a lot better than they did yesterday when we only had highs of about 38 degrees. Right now we're at 43 in Baltimore, 37 at Cockeysville, 38 at Laurel, 39 at Frederick and Westminster, and 38 at Chestertown. A little bit of a wind chill. But again, improvements, baby steps. Temperatures are running about 10 to 20 degrees warmer than they were just 24 hours ago. And the HD radar looking okay once again as some snow is up toward the Canadian border. And then there's some rain if you're traveling down toward Dallas and Houston for the Thanksgiving holiday and also east of Orlando. Outside of that, the lion's share of the country is dry this evening. So not all that normal to see that this time of year. Even the snow that was coming off of Lake Erie with some 6 to 7 feet of snow around the Buffalo metro area, that's ended. And sunny and warmer weather with, again, that double-barreled Big Blue H, fair weather high pressure building in the next couple of days all the way through the holiday. Now, overnight tonight, it is going to be the exception to the rule. We do fall back down into the upper 20s to around 30. We're back through the 30s by about 8, 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Lunchtime near 50 and into the 50s once again for tomorrow afternoon after a couple of days spent well below average. 28 clear skies for tonight. Tomorrow we're at 53 and mostly sunny. Your exclusive 10-day forecast all the way through the Thanksgiving holiday weekend and beyond in a couple of minutes.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Washington's Mount Rainier put on quite a show over the weekend. Those clouds overhead are called lenticular clouds, which can often look like spaceships. Now to Gatlinburg, where bear sightings are common, but what about a family of bears climbing a tree? Mama Bear is resting on a limb while 4 of her cubs appear to be having a great time.
Want to see your weather photos and videos on TV? Click Chime In on this station's website to share.
Mobile sports gambling on the verge of going live in Maryland. The crucial test today and what it means for more than half a dozen apps hoping to win approval. Mobile sports books are doing live testing right now in Maryland. The long delay from legalization to implementation is almost over. Brad Bell from our Sinclair sister station in D.C. explains the process, what to expect this week, and warning signs of addiction.
That slip is empty. I gotta call KG.
It's hard to miss the commercials. Sportsbooks competing for your attention and cash.
DraftKings, listen to me.
After the country's longest delay from legalization to placing first bets, online sports wagering is now live in Maryland, and the gaming industry is thrilled.
Between Thanksgiving and the World Cup, it's a great time to ultimately get online sports betting off the ground.
The 7 sportsbooks listed on your screen now started a live trial period at 2 p.m. this afternoon. It'll run until 10 p.m. tonight with state regulators watching. After 10 p.m. and all day tomorrow, there will be no wagering allowed. The sportsbooks which pass the test tonight can go live once and for all Wednesday, and the wagering can begin.
On a national level, last year or this year, people are going to bet almost $100 billion on sports. And we think once the market matures in Maryland, people in Maryland might bet upwards of $5 billion a year.
Each of the 7 sports books launching this week is advertising introductory offers. My phone, social media have been flooded with them. It would be easy to become hooked. And that warning is also being sounded this week.
I think this convenience and availability certainly, I anticipate will increase the need for people who might find themselves developing a gambling problem.
Mary Drexler of the Maryland Center on Problem Gambling says warning signs are gambling, impacting relationships, and betting increasing amounts of money.
You start thinking about betting and how you're going to bet and when you're going to bet. It's always on your mind. That's kind of a signal or a red flag that you may be developing a problem.
And she says if you need help, you should call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Largo, Brad Bell, Fox 45 News.
Exclusive 10-day forecast. 53 warms up tomorrow to 57 then on Wednesday. And for Thanksgiving, lots of sun. Great looking for travels here. 57 on Friday, 58 Saturday. Maybe a stray shower, especially later Saturday. Some rain, mild for heading home on Sunday, 62. Blustery and somewhat cooler on Monday, and then milder again into next week.
Well, finally tonight, the Ravens paying it forward on Victory Monday, spending the day handing out turkeys to families in need. Isaiah Likely and Brandon Stevens were joined by Safeway in giving back to the community. Such a nice way to spend a recovery day before they hit the road for Jacksonville after Thanksgiving. Fantastic. Well, that's all for Fox 45 News at 6. Family Feud is up next. We'll see you back here for the news at 10 tonight with more reaction to the City Council's passage of the bill granting themselves faster pension access. Have a good night.